Okay, good afternoon everyone and welcome to this week's The Marketing Gem. This week we're talking about testimonials at work. It's a really important part of attracting new business, has lots and lots of benefits that if testimonials are used in that way can help you and your business grow and develop. So to discuss the topic this week on this week's Think for Growth TV show, I have Catherine Baldwin. Hi Catherine.
Hi, Diane. Hi. Yeah, this is an interesting topic, isn't it? I mean, this is something I've looked into and something I put on my website. But, whether it's on digital media or printed literature at all, it's great to have some testimonials. It's great to have that communication, not only with your customers, but with your potential customers as well. So, yeah, I look forward to discussing this.
Okay, and this week we're joined by Jonathan, hopefully on a better line than we had last week, Jonathan.
Well, right. Well, I'm a lot closer this time. I'm in Amersham rather than Weymouth, and I'm doing it on a landline, even if it does go down a telephone wire that probably is 200 years old. Anyway, yes, testimonials. In a sense, you're only ever as good as the last job you've completed. So the first tip would be keep them fresh. But we'll get on to all the details of what you need to when we go through the topic.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Kevin. Hi, Kevin Lynch.
Hey, Diane. Just checking that I've got my mic turned on. Testimonials. What a fantastic way of getting people to connect with your business.
Yeah, exactly. As usual, you can get in touch with us via The Marketing Gem on Twitter @The Marketing Gem, that is, and we look forward to hearing from you if you've got any thoughts and comments as we go along through the show, or indeed suggestions and ideas for future week programs. So, Catherine, testimonials, why are they so effective?
Well, they're very effective because they're a tool that can use when some other tools just don't fit. They're not a particularly salesy orientated thing, but actually they can boost sales in a way that perhaps no other marketing technique can. I mean, for instance, on a website you can have a page dedicated to testimonials from customers. You could even have little quotes from customers running along the bottom of a page or interspersed in some of your homepage material, so that it really sort of brings to life some of the work that you've done, but particularly, as I'm sure Jonathan will mention again, recent work that you've done. If there's some project that you're particularly proud of, get a testimonial from someone who was pleased about it. There's nothing quite like a personal recommendation from someone who's experienced your services, your contact, your product, and your way of doing things, to tell other people about it. You know, it's as good as nudging somebody next to the networking meeting and say, "Oh, I've done business with them before. They're really good." The same thing can apply on a testimonial on a website. As I say, printed literature and whatever as well, and even spreading that word around then on social media. A nice quote from someone, a nice recommendation, it can go a long way. It's a useful tool, so not just in the digital world, but in the printed world as well. And as I say, it's a useful sales and marketing tool.
Okay. Jonathan, what else can testimonials do for you that perhaps normal sales messages can't?
You can demonstrate the nitty-gritty, and you can also sort of demonstrate customer service. So where you went the extra mile, and it's not you saying it; it's your customer. So in a sense, it's authentic. So it carries more weight. Advertising of any description tends to only be able to say one thing well. A testimonial may be able to paint various different facets of the service that you provide, and therefore it gives greater depth and makes someone to watch it more than once. So it's there. You don't necessarily try and force it down people's neck, but people then use it as a basis of research. And a good testimonial, the person who gives it will be happy to talk about the service they. So you actually respect its value.
I'm afraid I spoke too soon about
Acknowledged at that point.
Kevin, I mean, beyond, I mean, they can, as Jonathan and Catherine said, you know, they're great ways of building trust and they shouldn't be salesy and stuff like that. But they're also great for overcoming skepticism that people can actually do the job, aren't they?
Yes. When I look to assess the quality of a supplier, I try and take a quantitative approach and a qualitative approach. So, you know, some numbers about the size of the business, but there's some stuff that just can't be captured by a balance sheet or assets or whatever. And testimonial gives me that kind of hook. I can see the quality of the business that I'm dealing with. I can see the things that that you know, beyond just, for example, offering a haircut, for example, the extra stuff that that they deliver above and beyond. You know, because at the end of the day, you know, you want to differentiate suppliers, and you know, you want your customers to understand where you sit in the market, and there's nothing better than the testimonial from someone relevant. It's really the beginning and the end of it for me.
Yes, I was going to jump in and say it ought to be specific as well, you know, if it's a particular thing. For instance, if you're doing a particular bit of literature about, sorry, it's my phone, I'm alone here at the moment, my phone's going. A particular bit of literature about a particular product you want to push, then it would be great to have an endorsement, a recommendation from someone who's used that product. For instance, if you're doing some children's toys, you know, to have a recommendation from a mum who's bought something that their child has really enjoyed. A little quote to endorse that product can go a long way. So being specific about them is good.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, what kind of points would you want in a good testimonial? If you're on the receiving end of a testimonial, what kind of key points need to be covered?
It's got to be relevant. As Catherine said, be specific and use, say, 3 or 4 testimonials if necessary to cover all the aspects of the service that you provide, because by and large you will be providing different products and services to different people. And remember, there are people out there who make their entire business out of testimonials, good or bad. You know, we've got things like TripAdvisor, but we are now in the digital age, we're in the habit of marking up after we've done a job for someone or someone's done a job for us, and we're sitting there saying, well, rate this customer. Amazon do it, eBay do it, TripAdvisor obviously. Some of it is not very high quality. What you want to do is have something personalised, and you know, sort of, you're probably better off with 4 good testimonials than 100 very vague, which you want.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, Kevin, it's building on what Jonathan's saying. It's got to be filled with benefits and substantiate your claims, hasn't it?
Yes, I mean, I think Jonathan was alluding to, for example, as an eBayer, you know, it's like copy and paste the last comment. You know, if the guy, you know, give the guy 5 stars, copy and paste the last comment. The only value of those is the sheer quantity of them, you know, and if somebody's got 5,000 of them going back 5 years, well, it says something. And you know, I've noticed that if you're less than glowing about a eBay thing, you know, people are like really upset and offended. You know, for high value business, it really is the quality, the relevance of the speaker to the marketplace you're operating in, and to, you know, the reference to the high value benefits that you bring. You know, anybody can supply a car, but let's say a German motor car has, let's say, a degree of ride and comfort that you wouldn't necessarily expect in a car that was made for, let's say, the Indian domestic market. You know, so it's a way of bringing out those things. I mean, people write their own copy, and that's advertising, and you think, well, that's paid for content, so I can't put too much trust in that. But when it comes from, let's say, the Dalai Lama or some person of unimpeachable integrity, you think, well, it really has to be believed. Catherine, are you a fan of the Dalai Lama? Has he ever written any testimonials for you?
I've never met him. I mean, you speak very highly of him.
Oh, well, it's my wife. She's a fan.
Ah, I think he's got a few decent words to say.
Has he said anything about your business? Despite you asking him 1,000 times.
No, I think you're absolutely right.
I think this is very unfair. I mean, my testimonial from Putin hasn't done me any good.
Yes, I was going to say, you know, the eBay comment, as you say, the cut and paste, great product, great service, fabulous 5 stars. It means nothing, really, does it? As you say, quantity is fine in that particular instance. But yes, if you want someone to actually say something specific about your company, your service, your product, it needs a little more thought. So perhaps asking the right people for a testimonial, if it's something you want to display to the whole world, then asking the right people, the right customers, is a good idea. And this is why it can be a decision that you have to make. Do you ask specifically and then post the content that you want to post, testimonials on your site, or do you actually have a feedback form, which of course can then feedback good and bad. You know, you have to be prepared for that if you're going to invite comment. So yes, something to think about in that respect. I was going to mention LinkedIn because they have a testimonial side to what they do. Whilst you can endorse people for particular products, services, all the rest of it, there is actually also a section for recommendations, and that's all about writing a little paragraph. And again, you know, those that have a whole stream of them, you perhaps read the first couple and you think, well, that'll do me. So maybe a good quality 4 to 6 recommendations in that sort of situation is enough. You know, you want people to be specific, say something good, say something relevant, and something that people want to read.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that, but of course you need to make sure that it's got benefits in there. It's no good just saying, oh yeah, they were great, they were fabulous, they were this or that, whatever. It's got to have specific to the product or service that you're trying to sell. Otherwise, it could be seen as being a bit of cotton wool, couldn't it, Jonathan?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a danger that, you know, if it's too flattering, it might not be as authentic as it could be. But equally, you know, it's like going back in olden days when people, you know, would have on their CV a number of people you could get references from. Nowadays, no one's allowed to give a full reference. So you wouldn't expect anyone to post for testimonial on their LinkedIn. But those things you have to sort of build the way that you do these things and think about how the testimonials are most beneficial to you as the person who controls the message. What I was going to go back to is actually the role of testimonial and when you start collecting testimonials. And essentially, I would say testimonials should be a major foundation to any kind of marketing platform. They're part of the feedback that you rely on from customers from day one, and every day you should be looking to get good feedback from customers. You want to, as I said at the beginning, keep that fresh. So just as a mental note, build to the way that you run your business, that you are always looking for strong feedback from customers, whether it's you have 5 customers a year or you have 10,000 customers. And you know, if you have 10,000, you're going to get very, very short self-filled-in forms or something like that. But if you only have 5 or 10 customers, then go and make a film and talk face-to-face or do something like that, which you can then put on your website.
Yes, I was going to say, this isn't just limited to the written word, audio and video. Great means of recording a testimonial. You know, we've got YouTube, we've got all sorts of recording possibilities at our fingertips, and just a few minutes, 2 or 3 minutes of a testimonial on a video can go a long way. It can be a very visual response to something that you've done well.
Yeah. I mean, that's really true. I mean, I've been in one of these courses, where you turn your mobile phone into a video recording device, and then you can edit it on the phone and post it almost straight away. And the advantage of that is it's instantaneous. It's easy to do. It can be very quick to put up on your website, and of course, people are enthusiastically speaking about your product or service. Kevin,
Go ahead, Catherine, and then I'll come in on video.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's an absolutely face-to-face way of doing it as well. One thing I was thinking about when we were talking about credibility of testimonials is don't ever be tempted to make them up, because people do see through them. And one way of actually ensuring that people are getting an absolutely genuine testimonial is to do an audio or a video of some sort. People see what they're getting then.
Okay, I'm just going to come in on that, and the thing about video is if you've only got 5 customers, then you really do have to spend on production quality. So that can be quite tricky, especially when a lot of principals in business often have confidentiality contracts and stuff like that. So they don't mind giving sort of a 3-5 line testimonial. That's not going to cause trouble. But to appear on video that can be hauled up in the CEO's office, so that can be video when you can get it is fantastic. But the actual logistics of getting it done shouldn't be underestimated. But and I used to work for a company that does video, so I certainly know about all the challenges that I had. Having said that, you get the odd mad people here and there. So in my line of business, it was hard to get various people to talk about our problem, but the people who are actually the on-air talent, they had no problem because they just witter on about anything. Oh no, I think I need to. No, the on-air talent were more than happy to film themselves saying what they liked about our products. That's for sure. With regard to Catherine's comment, shouldn't write testimonials. I have to admit, most of the testimonials I've ever gotten, I had to write them. Now, I'll be honest and say that the story was true. It's just the person giving the testimonial was too busy. So my tip for writing testimonial is to use the STAR method, and the STAR method is to talk about the situation, the task, the action, and the result. Those come together to give some fairly compelling words that are honest, and at the end of the day, the person giving the testimonial has to stand by it. I was going to sort of throw to Jonathan next because I'm kind of the bottom-up person. Jonathan is the helicopter view. So what do you want to say about helping people do testimonials and getting them to do video, given the constraints that I've been talking about, Jonathan?
No, I agree with you that the STAR plus B operation, where you end up with an overall benefit, where people go, I'd never have thought of that, is very powerful. The other thing I would say is don't make them too long. It's very simple to get people to talk for maybe 30 seconds, maybe 60 seconds. Anything over 3 minutes, I'd probably say, unless it was a very, very detailed testimonial, forget it, because people are just not going to watch it. So keep it short, keep it on brief. He's absolutely right about get the best quality you can, and if the best quality you can is a series of and images off your mobile phone and recording it, and that's the best you can get, that's probably fine for certain operations, like if you're a kitchen fitter or a bathroom fitter or something like that, and you want to show people the quality of the job that you did, a voiceover about how you resolve various different problems, etc. You're absolutely right in what Kevin says. If you're trying to talk to CEOs and C-suite members and things like that, that's a very different issue, and you go in there with a professional crew, if you like, and make a professional film. And the better the quality of the film, the more compelling it should be. The more compelling it should be, the more you can make use of it, not only on your website, but you may well want to use it on a screen at an exhibition, or you may well want to use it on some kind of publicity. So you might put it up on a site like YouTube and then direct potential customers to go and watch it, or even set it out via Twitter or something like that. So there's lots and lots of opportunity once you've got it, but the better the quality you can get, and the more video, inverted commas, you can get. Keep it short, simple, keep it to the point, etc. Don't be afraid to publicise it and make most use of it you can. But equally, don't forget that the written testimonial, the letter, they basically operate on the word of mouth basis. 90% of your business comes from people saying good things about you in the past. And in a sense, I suppose that goes back to the very basics of testimonials. And I'll leave it at that thought.
Yeah, I'll just come back on one thing Jonathan was saying about getting the maximum use out of the video. One thing is, if you've got 3 or 4 testimonials, do just make sure you add some subtitles to it and stick it on a DVD and just leave it playing in your company reception. It just gives such a compelling view of your company to people sitting there. You've got a captive audience. They might as well just know what your best customers think of you. Great little bit of building brand reputation there.
Yeah, but of course the other thing is, and it kind of touches upon what we were talking about last week with banner headlines and then being visible. You've got all these great testimonials, and you talked about putting them on the front TV desk sort of thing in bigger offices and so on and so forth. But it is important that these testimonials are seen, aren't they, Catherine?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I mentioned before, you can have a dedicated page on a website for them. You can have, some people have their web pages in quotes down the bottom, different quote on each page. Some people intersperse them in the text of what they're saying, particularly if it's next to a relevant product or service. And as I say, social media as well. Send them out on Facebook, Google Plus, and Twitter, of course. There are lots of different ways to be seen. Obviously, LinkedIn as well, particularly if you're, an active post writer on something LinkedIn, or something like on LinkedIn. And you can send it out globally. Then it's probably the biggest social media, business media platform that there is in the world. So there's lots of ways to make it visible. One thing I was going to add as well, if you can get someone to compare what they're actually giving a testimonial about to something else that they've tried that didn't work, that's quite a nice little technique as well. So if someone's tried something before it didn't work, they say, oh, but I've tried your service, your product, and found that it's fantastic for whatever reason. It's having a little chat about the content of a testimonial is a good idea.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm not averse to putting testimonials on the homepage of a website, for example, above the fold somewhere, say in a side panel, but right on the top right-hand side or top left-hand side or something like that. So
Absolutely.
it's clear of the navigation and the main message, it kind of reinforces that message straight away.
Yes, that's right. Well, it adds a personal touch to it as well, especially if you keep them fresh and change them every few days, every few weeks. I think about when I do some press releases with the charity that I work with, always to include a couple of quotes. Just makes it a bit more interesting. People read it because it becomes different. It becomes a personal thing. If you know someone has had an experience with something, then it brings it home to them more. This isn't just a remote product, a remote series, a remote service of some sort. It brings it home on a very personal sort of level. Somebody somewhere has really had a good experience with this. Well, I want that too.
Yeah, and of course, we always talk about testimonials from clients, but that doesn't have to be necessarily from clients, does it, Jonathan? It could be, say, from trade magazines who are doing comparative reviews or something like that. That is also another form of testimonial.
Of course it is. Any kind of positive feedback from the product or service, etc. The motor industry does it all the time. with comments out of road tests from the big magazines and from comments from people like Top Gear and things like that. But I mean, if you're thinking about things that you can do on a scalable basis, you know, there are some businesses where actually you will never get a testimonial, or what you do highly confidential and it's likely to be printed. But you know, if you're a very, very small scale business, even some positive review comments from customers printed on backs of your business cards and things like that, where you know there is a fact and someone can ring up and say, well, did they do some work? You know, they say yes, they were brilliant. Is good from your point of view. Just think about how you can make use of it and how scalable it is. I mean, we were saying about, you know, put it on the front desk for office. But let's say you're a hairdresser. If you've got a television screen in the hairdressing salon, maybe you can flash up some images of people that, you know, you've done, I don't know, weddings or something like that for, where they've been particularly pleased with what you've done, and with some commentary over it. And try and, again, always try and keep these things fresh. If you've got a testimonial on the front of your website, try and make sure that whatever you're doing is updated on a regular basis, so that however good they are, you refresh them. You may go back to old ones every now and then because they were particularly good, but every time people go and visit your website, in the sense, you want them to see something new, and the testimonial could be one of those things that are easily and regularly refreshed.
Yeah, exactly. Kevin, we've talked a little bit about collecting testimonials and stuff like that, but if you can't write, if you can only write a testimonial and stuff like that, do you think a supporting photo of the person would help?
Yes, I mean, everything that makes the thing more real. Just come back to Jonathan's previous thing about testimonials. Of course, the most dodgy testimonials of all are the cinema reviewers' quotes. You know, it's like, simply shouldn't be missed because it's so awful. You know, and on the cinema tagline, it's simply shouldn't be missed. That's so those guys, you know, I can't remember which sector he was saying are known for their dodgy quotes, but I have to say the cinema critic movie reviews, they by far sail closest to the wind. In terms of your question, yeah, I mean, it's about at the end of the day, it's about communication, and as human beings we have 5 senses, so give them audio, give them video, give them, you know, a smell of coffee, if only to wake them up, pinch them, but no, obviously in the web you've really only got the eyes and the ears, so, you know, feed the eyes, feed the ears, feed the imagination. That's got to be because at the end of the day, content is king. So, you know, you need to have compelling content, and that's why I've always found the testimonial process has been, it's definitely something that's negotiated. Will you recommend me? Yes, but I don't have time. No problem. Do you mind if I write it for you? Yeah, great. I'll write it. Okay, well, I'm happy with that. Not happy with that. You know, we've got to something. In my sector, what was particularly common was what we used to call the reference customer. So, we were always very, very keen. So we didn't like to spend a lot of money on what you guys call above the line advertising, but we spent a lot of money with the reference customers. So that would be, you know, as we entered a territory, you know, make sure the first one, they were completely happy. And, you know, we were quite rigorous about the process, where literally the account manager would visit with the prospect, and we would literally walk away, leave the two of them in the room for 10-15 minutes, and just trust that the truth and integrity of the process played things out. Diane, you're smiling about that. Have you been involved in those kind of reference customer situations?
Well, I was just thinking about 1 or 2 places where I've been in, where actually trying to get people to smile about anything has been quite difficult. So that's what that was about. But yes, you're right. If you can get some great organisations to provide a reference for you, especially if you're an SME, then that helps to add weight to the reference purely simply because that person is working for a known brand or a known organisation.
Yeah. And I mean, you were talking about people not being keen on smiling. So, for example, in our Japanese territory, business there isn't necessarily carried out in a bright and shiny way, and we used sort of customer satisfaction metrics, and we knew that the experience was consistent and fine. But an experience in the US, which would have rated at plus 48, in the UK came in at 38, and in Japan at minus 20. So, the Japanese were never warm, happy, and friendly. But as human beings, when other Japanese people turned up, they would say, well, this product, it wasn't adequate, but, we thought it was acceptable. But, for that market, that was, unbridled enthusiasm for the product. So, you do have cultural barriers there.
Mm.
So
I mean, Jonathan, the power of the person providing the reference will add to the reader's perceived standing of the reference, won't it? So if it's, say, in Kevin's line, if it was a quote from the BBC, that would have more weight than if it was from, say, Link for Growth Television.
Or even Sky. You'll be right with that. But again, it depends on how relevant it is to the business that you're trying to conduct. I would suggest that when you're looking for topics for your testimonials, recency of having conducted service, business, etc., with a particular customer. I would also reference it back to your communication strategy, because everything that you provide and do should really go back to the source of what it I'm trying to communicate, and doing relatively few things really well. I said at the beginning, the great thing about the testimonial is it can describe more than just the basic facet, but it should include whatever is core to your communication strategy. And it is a great feedback mechanism. It sort of ensures that within your business, you are always remembering to say, I want to hear from my customer. So play it to its strength, and use all the methods that you can to distribute customer feedback messages to other potential customers.
Yeah, okay. Now, we talked a lot about what we should be doing. What shouldn't you be doing?
Ooh. Your hand shouldn't be seen in the glove of the puppet giving the testimonial. I think that's number one.
I think you need to be sure that you can use a testimonial in its original form. Don't edit a testimonial. It has to be as the customer has written or has agreed. And obviously with their permission, as Kevin mentioned before, they're putting their name, their signature to that. So don't then go and edit it and tell them it has to be used in its original format. That's in effect their words. It's their testimony.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you can't invent a testimonial and then put it up online, but what you can do is you can write a testimonial for someone for their approval, can't you, Jonathan?
Yes, by all means, but remember, they will only approve it, if it is effectively they wanted to say in the first place. So, and don't try and bend it to. By all means, record 5 or 10 minutes of testimonial and then cut it down to a minute or two. But don't completely change the meaning of what they say. I mean, it's an insult to their intelligence. And by and large, if you had to heavily edit it, it will also become almost comical and perhaps be picked up by other people and shown around as an example of how not to do things. I think transparency in business is always important. and don't try and deceive the end user, because if you do make things up, ultimately they'll come back and bite you on the bottom. That's not what you really want.
No, exactly. Kevin, we've talked a lot about video today, and how long should a video testimonial be? I mean, is it like a 30-second advert, or is it a little bit longer than that should be done, or is it the 10 minutes that Jonathan alluded to?
It's all about the context. You probably know better than me the current average view time in YouTube, but I reckon it's 43 seconds, so you probably want to have something that's sub 43 seconds. We're verging very closely to my tip of the week, so I'm just going to pass at that and throw back.
I would concur with that. We had a charity video done last year sometime, and I think it was actually 47 seconds long, and that was considered the optimum viewing time for someone to pay attention to something of any importance. So yes, I'd say certainly under a minute, somewhere near 45, 47 seconds is about right. And that's really going to sort of get your message across. It's not going to bore someone to tears, and they might remember some of it.
Yeah, and of course, as we all said, because it's so important to driving customers to you for your service or your product, it's important that you use them in the correct way and you place them in, say, every page of the web page, that they can be seen, social media as we've talked about, and also that they're not salesy, that they are making all those comparison stuff and those other points we talked about earlier on in the show.
It might be good to actually have a bit of preparation with that customer first. Perhaps even have some question time and really sort of get to grips with what you want them to say, but also how they want to say it.
Yeah, and of course the other thing is don't be afraid to ask, because people are usually willing to help, aren't they, Kevin?
Yes, if you've done any sort of reasonable job at all, people are more than happy to bask in the reflected glory of a job well done.
Okay, that's great. We talked about Tip of the Week, which we'll do in a moment. You're watching the Marketing Gem on Link for Growth TV, and you can contact us at via Twitter at the Marketing Gem. That's via Twitter at the Marketing Gem. We're coming to the end of the show, so let's just talk about tips of the week. Kevin, you kind of, I think, should start since you were halfway through yours earlier.
Yes. I actually have two things. The first thing is when you're getting a testimonial, write two forms, the long form and the short form, so that you can agree the long full version and a short condensed version. That way you don't have to go back to the person for copy change approval. Just do the two for one, and everyone will be happy for that. And the other one was when I was at college, one of my fellow students, he asked for a recommendation from one of the tutors, and the tutor wasn't that enamored of him, and he said, well, if you can get Jim to work for you, you'll be a very lucky man. So, just...
Well,
Jonathan, what's your tip of the week?
Yes, it's right. There were a number of those. They usually used to appear in when you were reviewing members of staff and things like, sort of, oh yes, he goes into we follow him, expecting full of expectation and things like that. He's going to open his mouth and something dreadful is going to come out, but we can't say that. Right, tips of the week. We've said keep it short. One of the things with testimonial I'd definitely say is before you put it up, show it to the person who you've reviewed. That means an extra layer of having to get things done. But I would rather have someone see it and say, yes, I'm happy with that, than have them see it and say, oh, I don't sound very good, or I didn't realise that the sun was shining off my forehead. instead of giving me a shiny paper. So if you can, make sure that whoever is doing your testimonial, if it's a video, etc., that they've actually sort of seen it. Other tips of the week, I'd go back to try and build collecting testimonial type information into your marketing plan. Continually ask customers to feedback, particularly the positives. I mean, the negatives are also very valuable, but particularly the positives, and then use that as a way of fueling the testimonial program, so you can always keep it fresh.
Yeah. Okay. Catherine, what's your tip of the week?
Carrying on from something that somebody mentioned earlier about asking your customers questions, I would recommend putting together a short questionnaire of maybe no more than 6 questions. Some of them specific, but some of them open-ended. For instance, if you were to describe the experience that you've had with our company to somebody else, what would you tell them? And actually getting them to write in their own words just a couple of sentences about that personal relationship that you're hoping to develop with more customers. I think those sort of personal comments can really go a long way to actually bringing your business to somebody else. It's a bit like, as I say, sitting in a room and saying to someone, look, do you know any plumbers? Have you used a plumber recently? You want a recommendation from someone. You want to feel that someone has known about this business, this company, this experience. So, you know, experiencing on a personal level, I think, is a good idea. And on a very practical level, have a look through your customer list, through your email list, pick out 3 people this week, today, who you could actually ask for a recommendation for. Make a point of perhaps doing that every week, every couple of weeks, and you'll soon build up a bank of testimonials that you can use in rotation on literature and on your website.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. My tip of the week is that if someone writes a testimonial and you don't agree with it, you don't have to post it up there. Because it is your prerogative to say yes, it goes up or it doesn't go up. What you shouldn't do is take their testimonial and edit it, and I think that was a point that was made earlier on by several of the team, because that is blatantly wrong. But you do have the prerogative of not posting it if you don't want to, especially when if you've got a whole load. And remember, and the other thing is to try and get testimonials that reinforce your brand position and your brand position, brand propositions. If you want to be known for good service, try and get testimonials that talk about how great your service is. If you're talking about the quality of the manufactured goods you do, then try and get testimonials about the quality of the manufacturing goods that you have and their reliability. Don't put something up there that says, yeah, this was absolutely great, whereas in fact it's a service that you're trying to run down, because that people will come back to you for that because they rely on the testimonial as being an external form of reference. Okay, on that note, it's time to go for this week. I'd like to thank Catherine, Jonathan and Kevin, as usual, for joining me for this week's Link for Growth TV. As I said, you can get the Marketing Gem every week on Twitter, and contact us via Twitter, rather, on the Marketing Gem. And we will pick up all the comments that we see, and if you have anything that you want us to cover, then please let us know.
Thanks, and thank you to you, Diane.
That's okay. And as usual, at the end of the show,
thank you. Yeah. Thanks for watching.
As usual, if you want to get in touch with us, you can via the Twitter links that you now appear on the page, because we're all available to work independently for you or collectively. But please do get in touch if you need any help and support. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.